That is that if you look on your toolbar in front of you, you're going to find that you have a questions pane in there, and a lot of you are already using it right now and interacting with us. That's typically the way that we've always conducted these webinars, where we've limited to that in terms of interaction, so on and so forth. And I know you can hear us, but your microphones are muted by default. And tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to try something a little bit differently, where if you have a microphone on your device, your computer, your portable device even, that is, we're going to try to maybe take some comments from the audience by audio and see if that works. We've had some recent success with that on a smaller scale webinar, and we're going to see how that works. So before I get too far ahead of myself here, we'll try to make that happen when you've got questions, so we won't be able to stop at any given moment. I ask you guys, if you could, right at this moment, just go ahead and lower your hands. And in fact, I'll do it for you because I see that people are raising their hands. I want to make sure that works. And with me tonight, I'm going to back up for just a second. I have Mr. Bob Cornwell from our medium heavy truck test series. He's a specialist in that area, so we're privileged to have Bob with us tonight. I also have Dan Baumhard with me tonight. He works in the ASE Test Development Department. And my name is Dave Kappert. I'll be tonight's presenter, and I also work in the ASE Test Development Department. So once again, thanks for joining us. Just quickly, the viewer window in front of you is where you're going to see the content, the slides that we're going to display, the questions pane I already discussed, and the toolbar where you see the hand raising. This is for the desktop interface. If you have a portable device, you'll see a hand on there, and just click on that to raise your hand. And again, we're not going to be able to take questions throughout this whole thing all at one time. Where it fits, we'll try to do that and break the presentation up, but we will get to a questions portion in this presentation. And just so you know, tonight's session is being recorded. If you are on a portable device, I encourage you to install one of the apps on your particular platform. Don't try to do it through the web browser. So you just go over to the respective Play Store or the App Store, get what you need for your device, and you'll be good to go. Don't try to attend this event through your web browser on your portable device. And the other thing you may want to consider is switching the Wi-Fi for data to save yourself a couple of pennies on your cellular plan. So again, welcome everyone, and we're going to go ahead and roll here on the test preparation for ASE medium heavy truck tests. So what we've got in store tonight is we're going to give you a little bit of a background, a brief one on the T-Series tests, and we're going to focus on the study guide, something that gets overlooked all the time when people go off and begin to prepare for ASE tests. Sometimes people put a great deal of effort into preparing, but they don't direct their preparation efforts in the right direction. And that's unfortunate, because I can imagine just how frustrating it is when you don't pass the test and you feel like you've put a lot of time into it. Well, tonight, our efforts here are going to try to channel your energies in the right direction when you take specifically an ASE medium heavy truck test, but also any of the ASE tests. They work the same way. They're all kind of divided up in the same way. We're also going to feature a couple of interactive ASE style questions tonight that we're going to share with you that you can participate in as the audience. We're going to give a brief EPA Section 609 update, because that does apply to you as well. And then we're going to have a formal question part and resources. And we're not going to stay real formal on this entire outline. Again, we want to go ahead and try to open this up for some discussion. So once again, thanks for being with us. Okay, so let's just take a look at the truck series real quickly here once. We have the T1 through T8 in the T-Series background. Now, just like any of the ASE test series, they all result as a industry effort or interest in certification in that particular specialty area. So this is no different in trucks, the same in auto, the same in collision, all the other ones that we do. And along with a passing score in any one of these given tests that you see, you also have to have a 2-year experience accrued in order to earn certification. And since the introduction of the T-Series exams, they've kept pace with technology as time has gone on. They've never stayed static. We update them on a regular basis, depending on the curve of technology in any one of those given specialty areas. So that's, again, true of all ASE tests, but it's also, in the medium heavy truck tests. So the master medium heavy truck technician is a T2 through T8 certification. And that's a relatively new development to encompass those particular categories. And momentarily, Bob Cornwell is going to speak on the rationale for the T8 inclusion, on why that came about. But I just want to also remind everyone that ASE certification and medium heavy certification is a 5-year credential, at which point recertification is required in order to keep that credential. So Bob, if you don't mind, I'd like to go over to you, if you wouldn't mind giving some commentary here on the T8 inclusion on master.
Okay, Dave, I can do that. Can you hear me okay, Dave?
Got you good, Bob. Go ahead.
Okay, very good. All right, guys, like Dave said, thanks for joining us this evening. The T8 was added back into the master program. The industry came to us at ASE and requested that we add it back in due to the fact that it's such an important part of the preventive maintenance to do with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, with the tightening rules, closer tracking of the company and their CSA scores and stuff. And those are accumulated for the whole company. So it's become a very important part of the truck industry as far as the maintenance side to get these trucks in as good a shape as possible on the road to increase their CSA scores. And it's just a very large part of what's going on in the truck industry right now. So the industry came to us and asked us if we would add it into the master program. And of course, we're very industry driven, so we've put it back in, and so far we've had a lot of good response from that.
All right, Bob, thanks. What we're going to do now is we're going to roll over to master medium heavy vehicle technician matrix, and could you elaborate on what this means and how the T-Series master technician falls into this?
I sure can, Dave. And this is a little bit of a confusion over this with the master medium heavy vehicle technician. This was really put together for folks who are transitioning from one discipline to another. If they're working in school bus industry and they've got a couple of certifications in school bus and they're going to transition over into the truck or the transit bus industry, we put this together so that they wouldn't lose any of their certifications. They can still continue to build on this program to build towards your master certification. So this is kind of a combination of transit, school bus, and truck. So if you look at the figures that we have up there, you can combine any of these, diesel engine, H2, S2, or T2, along with any of the 3, 4, 5 series of tests in any of the other disciplines. The idea is to let you, kind of transition from one to another, or if you're working on transit buses for brakes and trucks for suspension and steering, to still build your master status through those different portals to add them together to reach that master. Dave, is that what you were looking for, sir?
Yeah, I think that's good. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to change it up here just a minute, and before we go on to the next topic, and I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to try to pick somebody from the audience here once and see if they've got a related question to this. I'm going to go over to Frank LeBode, I believe it's pronounced. Frank, if you've got a microphone available to you, I am going to unmute your mic, and you may have to do the same thing on your end. So let's give this a shot and see what's on your mind.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Frank. Go ahead.
I guess the question I have is, what is a good resource for studying when it comes to preparation for the medium and heavy series tests?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. We get that one a lot. And Bob, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to direct that over to you and see if you can funnel that one a little bit, other than some of the things we've got coming up.
Absolutely. At the end of this, also, Dave is going to share with us some material, some links and stuff to places you can get some assistance with training and stuff as well. There's a few things out there that we recommend. Of course, there is the normal study guides and stuff that are available out there. Some are actually pretty good. Some miss the mark just a little bit. But any kind of study material that gets your mind started and kind of gets you thinking is helpful. We recommend folks reach out to, if you're working for a dealership, let's say Navistar or Freightliner, to try to take advantage of as much of the training they have as you possibly can. There's also some other manufacturers out there that offer some training resources that are good. There is a company out there called Wheel Time. They offer some stuff. These are all, for a fee training opportunities. There's a company out there, or an organization out there called TMC. TMC is a group of folks who put together an awful lot of material out there, recommended practices, repair procedures, that sort of thing. And that link will be as a handout at the end. A lot of good material there. It's very reasonable to join that and have access to their training and stuff. My impression is most of our guys, I shouldn't say are uncomfortable, but their electrical is kind of their area where they need to study the most on or need to spend more time on. And a lot of the stuff can actually be transitioned from auto into the truck series, into school bus, into transit. A lot of the stuff is similar enough that there's some good material there. Also, believe it or not, if you can try with a local public library, there's a lot of material that's there if you can have the time to go and look around to see what's there. Used bookstores have a lot of good stuff that's out there. There's some different companies that make training materials that are actually pretty good. Delmar Cengage, Motor Age, folks like that have some material that's there. I would recommend you try to find the latest version, newest version, if you're going to be purchasing these materials, just so you have the more up-to-date technology that's out there.
All right, Bob, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And we're going to take one more. Let's go to Greg Bethel. If you have a microphone, go ahead and get in front of it there and look at your mic controls. I'm going to go ahead and unmute your mic. Let's hear what you got on your mind.
Yeah, I'm here. I've started taking the testing. I've done the T4, the T5, T3, and I just wanted to get in on this and see what other resources were available. I know the light duty, the automotive series has a lot of the online and CD training, and I know the CDs are available for the heavy truck also, which I haven't purchased yet, but I just wanted to get more background information and do some more prepping before taking the test.
All right, thanks for that, Greg. That's a very good question. It's one, again, we get a lot. And one of the things I might stress is that, where you get information available or where you get it from, where you source it from, might depend on what it is that you need. And that's going to cause a transition right now. We're going to jump into the next thing, and we're going to talk for a moment here about the ASE study guide. Okay, it's very much true. It's all about the study guide, and it all starts with the ASE study guide. So inside this handy dandy booklet that we offer to the industry at everybody's favorite price of free, you're going to find things like the details about the test specifications and task lists. And that probably sounds like really boring stuff, but it's not really boring when you consider that that is the actual architecture that makes up each and every ASE certification test. Included in there also are some sample questions, because ASE does have its own style of questions, and it's important to be well versed in those different style of questions, and we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. Oh, and incidentally, I just wanted to mention, on your toolbar on your screen, you're going to find that you've got a handout section in there with a couple of documents, and including this booklet that we're talking about right now, that you can download and look at your leisure. We also do provide them in paper format, but it's an electronic world today. So, again, the PDF is a real quick way to get them, and you can get them right off our website in the study guides URL there at ase.com study guides. So these are updated on a regular basis. Anytime our tests change, the content areas and task lists change, then we also change, the respective parts in these booklets to keep them in pace. And that's a real important thing, because that's what you use to navigate your needs for study material and how you might use that study material. So let's just talk for a second about the importance of test specs. Okay, so here's the T2 diesel engines, but you know, all the other tests are similar. They're laid out the same in terms of how we provide information. Now, why is it important? Okay, so here you see that you got the number of questions on the test and the percentage that that number reflects on the overall test content. Okay, it's important to know because you're going to see just how much weight is put on each one of these major content areas. And already you can start to formulate a plan. And so if you look here at fuel systems diagnosis and repair with 16 questions, as you'd expect for diesel engines, that would be a fairly extensive content areas, where maybe some of the other areas like engine block diagnosis and repair aren't as, you know, heavy in terms of emphasis. So getting back to fuel systems, look at that. I mean, essentially a third of the test covers that particular content area. So, you know, without knowing any more about the test, and depending on what your experience is on the various systems that are out there, you can pretty much see that the emphasis, 1/3 of the emphasis of that test is going to be on that content area. So that's probably something you should pay attention to. Okay, so there's the content areas. Now drilling down inside the content areas, we're going to talk about the tasks and the task list. Now here's a subsection of actually just one area where we talk about air induction, and you can see that each one of those tasks is called out, and these are all developed by subject matter experts, you know, industry specialists that come in and work with ASE in a workshop, and this is the outcome of that workshop process. This is the framework that the ASE questions are written around, and that's how we basically create an ASE test. And again, these are updated periodically as technology changes. Things come in, things go out, and that's how it works. And that's why it's so important. I can't stress enough about why looking at this is your important, you know, your most important first step. Okay, now we're going to just change gears for a second here, and we're going to look at two things really at one time here. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the 3 different styles of questions that ASE has in its tests. And again, it doesn't matter which test it is, we use 3 different styles. And understanding a little bit about those questions is really important because it can help in your approach to really reading and interpreting the question in itself. And that's outside of the content that particular question might reflect. So on a director completion style question, you're asked a question or to complete a statement, okay? You always got to read the question carefully. That's a given. We know that. But then you got to consider each of the 4 choices and rule out the ones that you think are obviously wrong. If you're left with 2 or more options that seem plausible to you, you may be lacking some knowledge that would help you rule out a wrong answer. And then choose the answer that seems the most likely to you based on your experience. If you still cannot choose an answer, take your best guess and go on. There may be a cause that's more likely than any of the other choices given, but you should select the most likely of the 4 choices shown. So at this point now, everybody just take a look at that question, and I'm sure you were reading it as I was talking. But this is a sample question, again, off T2. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a poll that I'd like you to interact with and answer the question on what you believe is the right answer. And then we'll follow up after you've done that and see what's right and see what's wrong. Okay, and while everybody's voting on that, it is tabulating automatically. So we're starting to see direction of what most people think the right answer is for it. And once I get that population up a little bit higher, we're at about approaching 70%. Come on, folks. Let's look lively out there. And I'm still not at 70. I'm going to give it just a little bit more. I'm going to max out at no more than a minute. We're at 70%, 72. Keep it coming, folks. Looking good. All right, I think what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and I'm going to close it out because I don't think we're going to affect it much more by making any changes. So we're closing that now, and now let's share what y'all thought. So the results speak for themselves, with almost 60% of you going for the liner shim. So while I've got that up on screen, Bob, I'd like to go over to you once, and if you wouldn't mind talking about the remediation on this question as far as the right answer.
Absolutely, Dave. So again, the question, diesel engine cylinder liner protrusion or height can be adjusted by selecting the correct size. Cylinder liner, those for the most part are designed to fit a particular engine. Really not a lot of adjustment to the liner itself. They're all pretty much the same across the board. Head gaskets, again, same thing. They're designed to a certain specification to fit an application, whether it's the head or the block or whatever. The correct answer, of course, is C, liner shim. And those liner shims are made in different thicknesses to help get your liner protruded up above that block to help seal that cylinder head gasket. D, fire ring, is also an incorrect answer. Again, that's made directly into the head gasket most of the time, and it's designed a certain thickness and a certain specification to make sure everything there seals as it's supposed to. So the correct answer here is C, liner shim. That's the way that we adjust those cylinder liner heights on these engines. Dave, back to you, sir.
All right, thanks, Bob. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to go to, well, we're still on this question. We haven't moved away. I'm going to go to Marlon Gaines and see if Marlon's got something on his mind. I don't know if it's related to this question or not. Marlon, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your mic. Are you there, Marlon? Marlon, your mic is live. You're good to go. All right, I'm sorry. Marlon maybe stepped away for a minute. Let's try Melissa Close and see what's on Melissa's mind. Go ahead, Melissa.
Hi, I'm just wondering what, basically, what other places you can go to get more training constantly, though, like even after the test, where can you go to get more training?
Dave, can I jump in here?
By all means, Bob.
One thing I've failed to mention earlier, if you have a local community college, we're starting to see an uptick in some community college training on the medium heavy truck side, whether it's diesel engines or suspension or AC, HVAC. We're seeing some other stuff there. There are some trade schools out there that are doing actually a really nice job. They get a little bit spendy on some of the platforms that they run, but if there's a school around somewhere close by, that community college, something like that, some of those programs are really well put together and the guys are very dedicated. Again, there'll be some handouts here. If you guys would like more information as far as training and stuff goes, I'll work with Dave to see if there's some way I can try to get that stuff out to you folks if you're interested.
All right, Bob, thank you. All right, so let's move along and we'll go into the next style question. All right, the famous Tech A, Tech B style question. These are questions that sometimes people struggle with because I think they may get the wrong idea about what's going on with them. So I want to clear the air a little bit tonight about just what the Tech A, Tech B style question is really all about. And what it is it's really two technicians that are making independent statements that you have to judge to be true or false. And the most common mistake with this type of question is to allow one technician's statement to influence your thinking about the other's statement. Just need to keep in mind that the two technicians are not arguing with one another. They're just simply making independent statements. So here's a trick. If you read Tech A's statement and ask yourself if it's true or false, then do the same with Tech B's statement. If only one of the statements is true, your answer is either A or B. If both statements are true, then the answer is C. If both statements are false, then your answer is D. All right, I've got to, okay, excuse me just a second. Let me hide the poll. There we go. Okay, so that Tech A, Tech B question, which is pretty wordy, is not going to fit entirely in our polling software, so you're not going to be able to read the whole stem of the question. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to launch the question, but you'll see everything. You won't see the Tech A, Tech B statements. It's just going to be after repaired. But it was up on the screen long enough now you should have been able to get to the heart of what the question was asking you. Okay, everybody, we're at about 36, 38%. Keep the votes coming, please. And again, Tech A, Tech B is not an argument. They're independent statements. That's probably the biggest takeaway you can have from looking at this. Okay, more than half of you. All right, probably not going to get much of a change at this point. I'll go ahead and I'll close that out. And then let me share it with you. So, well, 75% of you went with A. And the next biggest group was both A and B at 19%. So, with that, Bob, you want to go ahead and give us some insight on remediation on that question?
Absolutely, Dave. So the remediation on this, the correct answer, most of you folks, 75% are correct, and the correct answer is A, Technician A only. So the fault code should be cleared before releasing the vehicle back to the customer. Tech B statement is false. The customer's password should only be reset with the customer's permission. Again, as Dave was saying, with these reading the Tech A, Tech B type questions, there is a certain procedure for doing that, and I think, Dave, you're going to go over that a bit more.
Yeah, pretty much covered the ground rules on it. I mean, mainly it's the fact that they're two independent statements is really the key thing with these, and that it's not an argument.
Dave, can you put that question back up just for a second?
Yeah, let me go ahead and hide the poll here.
All right, thank you. We just had a request because it's so hard to read that there. And just to be clear, the contrasting viewer, Tech A, Tech B, they always have the same answer options. If you recall, you'll always see A is A only, B is B only, C is both, and D is neither. So it's always the same answer options on all of the ASE credentialing exams on a Tech A, Tech B. The other thing to consider on these is that you can simply read the stem if it has one, the cause of a logged fault code, cover Technician's B statement and make a decision if Technician A is true or false, then cover Technician A's statement and make a decision if Technician B's statement is true or false, and from there come up with your answer and move on. So that's a simple way to handle it. You're really processing two unique statements about the same thing or same topic. Thank you, Dave.
All right, Dan, thanks for that insight. Appreciate it. And let's go to Pedro Calderon. Pedro, what's on your mind? How can we help you tonight? Looks like Pedro's got his.
I'd like to know if.
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, Pedro. Your mic's open now.
Okay. I'd like to know if you're going to be class on multiplex system.
All right, Bob, you got any help there with multiplexing?
Yes, we do have some on the T6 certification test. There are some questions regarding multiplexing. They're not real specific type questions. That we are seeing more of the new style pretest questions we're putting into the test. There will be more of that in the next few test series or next few tests coming out. It's been around long enough now that guys are familiar with it, they understand it. So we have enough manufacturers that are using that technology now for the multiplexing that you will see more of those questions into the test series. I believe we actually may have some of them coming into the T8 test as well, talking about that sort of thing, communication issues, that sort of thing. But definitely in the T6 you'll see some updated stuff with multiplexing coming through.
All right, Bob, thank you. Let's go ahead and we'll go on to our third question type. Okay, the accept style question usually begins with a statement of a problem or malfunction of some kind. You have to choose the one thing that is least likely to cause the problem. In simple terms, it means there will be 3 answers that will cause the problem and 1 answer that won't cause the problem. You're looking for the single answer that won't cause the problem. Often the best way to find the answer is by process of elimination. So okay, we're going to go ahead now and we're going to launch that question live and see where you all fall in with it. Okay, halfway there, folks. Keep the votes coming. All right, real good. I'll go ahead and close that out, and let's take a look here. And so 3/4 of you went for the option D, the worn flywheel ring gear. And Bob, you want to elaborate on that a little bit, please?
Absolutely. We've talked about the accept question in-house here quite a bit, and we also share with a lot of our folks in the industry. Our test takers don't like accept questions a whole lot for the simple reason that they make you turn your head around and look at accept question the other way. These could cause the problem. When our technicians are looking, you know, they want to find, these will not cause the problem. Our technicians are fixers. They're looking for what will cause the problem. So you'll notice in the future that there won't be quite as many of the accept questions out there. They make you turn your head around the different direction to look at these. They still perform well, folks still understand them, but it kind of makes you look at the question a little bit differently. So with this question, excessive engine vibration could be caused by any of these, except the only one of the answers here that will not cause it is a worn flywheel ring gear. The other 3, a bad vibration damper, a loose engine mount, a misaligned flywheel housing, all will cause a engine vibration. So again, we're looking for the incorrect answer here, which was D, worn flywheel ring gear.
Hey Bob, I want to jump in here real quick. Just to explain to you folks that are attending, the accept items are limited to maybe 1 or 2 per test. We really limit those. And one of the reasons as a test administrator, when we build an exam, we need to make sure that we limit cluing and overlap. So in this particular case, when we call out excessive engine vibration, this test question references 3 things that could cause it and 1 that can't. Okay, so those 3 items that can cause it could clue another item, another test question, and therefore we limit the use of these. They're oftentimes overlap with other content and make us a little scared about giving you clues to answering other questions on the test. So we limit these. It's another version of like an ASE fill-in-the-blank question or a completion item with the accept in it, just not as common on the exams as they used to be. And back to the Tech A, Tech B, if you're doing any test preparation, we also limit the number of those on the exam. Those are approximately 25 to 30% of the exam form. That's where we don't exceed that. And the reason is that there's myths about those exam questions, and you know it's difficult to put 2 false positive statements together. I mean, it's getting pretty deep into the building of the exams and the construction of the exams and what happens in the testing and measurement community. But really, the direct questions that you saw at the beginning with the question mark at the end or fill in the blank, those are the ones we want to focus on. And so these accept in Technician A, Technician B are not extremely common on the exam. You'll see them, but they're not the vast majority by any stretch. And so if you see that in your test preparation information or the practice test you take, take note that you're not going to see as many of those as you might expect. Okay, makes sense? Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. Let's go to Steve Bernasek. You got something on your mind? I'm going to unmute your mic and let's see what's going on. Steve, over to you. Hello, Steve. All right, I guess Steve's not able to get his mic unmuted there, or he's walked away for a minute. Let's try Ricky Forvor, if I'm pronouncing that right. Ricky, how about you? Ricky, one more chance. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on here. So that finishes out our discussion on the 3 style questions then, the samples of each. Thanks for your interaction on those. And now we're going to change it up once more here, and I just wanted to mention real quickly that on our website at ase.com/testing tips, we have a handy dandy little widget where you can go through and actually interact with some questions. And although the questions there are not necessarily specifically towards truck, it does show you the process for working with these 3 different style questions to get you even more familiar with them. And as you go through them, it'll slash out an answer for you and kind of show you the cognitive process of walking through the questions. So we offer that to you as an additional resource. That's something free, again, off our website that you can play with. So you get some time, go ahead and take a shot at that. All right, another topic that comes up often that intermingles actually with almost all of our test series, not just auto, but certainly in the truck and transit and school bus even for that matter, is Section 609 credentials. By federal law, if you service a motor vehicle air conditioning system, and when I say that, I mean motor vehicle air conditioning system, meaning it's something that's substantially identical to what you're going to have on a car or a light truck. You need to have a Section 609 credential that's in the eyes of the federal EPA. Now, ASE has offered a program in that regard since the end of 1991 when this started to become law, and was federal law in 1992. We've had a program ever since then, and we have a paper version of it, and we also have it online. But I wanted to bring this up for a couple of different reasons. Is oftentimes people, like for example with the T7, the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, will get that confused and think that that covers them in the eyes of the federal government. And it does not. A Section 609 program really revolves around refrigerant management practices and understanding how things can impact, the environment and, and your customers, and knowing about all the hardware things with machines and connections and service fittings and cylinders and all that interrelated type of thing. So that's why the 609 programs are really out there. And again, that's something that you got to have. Now, there's been a sales restriction on going way back to the old days with R12, the ozone depleter. But I just want to bring something to everybody's attention that you may not be aware of, is that back in November, to be specific, November 9th of 2015, the EPA published a proposed rule that would extend the sales restriction that are currently in place for ozone depleting substances like R12 over to HFC like R134A, okay? And that means that once this law goes into place, which is expected to happen probably in the latter part of 2016, you will once again have to start showing your credentials in order to purchase refrigerant, because there will now be a restriction on your larger cylinders of 134. So I want everybody to know that. It puts more emphasis on that credential once more. And then also a footnote to this is that we've been getting questions about people wondering, they've heard about R1234YF in light duty vehicles, and when is that going to be coming to heavy trucks? At this point, it's unknown because R1234YF is not approved yet for heavy duty use. And I can't be more specific than that. I don't know any other timelines for any of the manufacturers, but it's a question that we get often. And as of right now, it's something we continue to monitor, so I don't have any more detailed information for you on that specific thing. So again, have a 609 credential. It's going to be more important than ever going on later into this year. And don't get it confused with the T7 or any of the other ones, because the T7 doesn't cover it. You got to have this program that we provide, either open book with paper or online, and in your resources the URL to take the program online is provided. All right, so that's really what we had planned for tonight. And obviously we said that we were going to take questions, and we'll continue to do that. And I know there's all kinds of activity in the questions pane, so I know that Dan and Bob are monitoring that, and thank you for that. I'm going to go and see if maybe I can pick a couple more live audio questions here once, and I'm going to go over to Juan Gregorio. Juan, what's on your mind?
What is the passing score for an ASE test?
All right, Bob, you want to help us with the passing score question?
Dave, I'll do the best I can. The passing scores are set by folks in the industry across the board. The average passing score we have for all the truck series tests, most of our tests are 50 questions. They require, majority of them, 33 or 34 correct. So we're in the 70 percentile for as far as a passing grade to be able to be certified in that whichever test it is that you're taking. 68 to 70%.
Yeah, I'd say 68 to 72% on the vast majority of the ASE exams is probably a pretty good number of questions correct. The problem that you need to, or the thing you need to take into consideration is that the ASE test is not like many other exams. Each item is statistically weighted. So there are items that are very difficult on the test. There's a few of those. There's items that are very easy on the test. There's a few of those. And the vast majority of the items are built into the exam right at that cut score. Or the best way to describe it is to determine the least competent technician that should receive the credential based on input from your peers or other technicians that do the job. Okay, and that's really important to understand. So to Bob's point, if you were to take 100 practice test questions and you got 70 of those correct, that is not a good indicator of your performance on the ASE exam. Those questions are not statistically analyzed, they're not weighted. Some may be really, really easy, some may be much more difficult. So that's it's not a good indication. The credential is really you know, the number correct or number of items correct is not really the most important thing. It's the difficulty of the test, and that's set. And the vast majority of the tests are built, like Bob said, in the truck series, around 50 questions, and the cut scores relatively even across those tests. But the difficulty is what's really key. Thanks.
All right, let's see.
Dave, are you going to take somebody that's got their hand raised, or can I answer a couple questions real quick?
Yeah, please go ahead. I've been working on the ones with the hands raised, but go ahead and work on some of the stuff in the questions pane there, Dan. Thank you.
You bet. One of the things that has come up is some discussion about 609, so you may want to go back and address that, like, does the cert expire? The cost for the 609 program through ASE, and then any need for recertification on that and the like. We've addressed this a lot of times, and there's some webinars available for you at YouTube at ASE Campus. That's our YouTube channel there, and it can address all of those questions for you. We've done boatloads of webinars about those. So we'll talk, we'll move away from that. One of the questions was, why can't technicians that take the tests see the questions that were missed on the test? And that is because if that question makes it out in the public, the difficulty of that item will change, and then the credential, the bar that's set for that exam, will also change. So for instance, if a question made it out into the public domain and it discussed in the truck series something to do with air brakes, that particular test question, which might have been at a difficulty right near the cut score, may become much easier, and therefore the difficulty of the exam may become less difficult. So that's why we don't really post those. We don't want you to want that bar to move. It has to be the same bar for the person that takes the test a year ago, 6 months ago, yesterday, tomorrow, 6 months from now, unless industry comes in and says we need to reevaluate these particular tests and the cut scores. We don't chase that. So I'm going to step away, Dave.
Hey, Dan, if it's okay, I am going to go ahead because it seems like the 609 questions have a thread here that have gone on through some common things. So let me make a couple of statements. So we've been asked, you know, so the 609 program that we offer is $19, whether in paper or online. The nice thing about our online program is you get an instant credential if you pass. You get a temporary certificate that is good for 60 days that you can print out right from your computer. And in that interim period, then we fulfill a permanent credential and send it to your mailing address on file in that time. But that does give you instant 609 credentials. Again, we are an EPA approved provider of that program. Our program has to meet, you know, their guidelines in terms of what's going on. Some people have asked, does my 609 credentials cover new upcoming refrigerants? Well, I don't know when you might have taken it last. Our latest program version came out at the beginning of 2015. And that version has R1234YF in it, R744, which is CO2, and R152A. And also, you know, discussion of newer related equipment, newer safety procedures, and things like that. So if you took the program some time ago, it is true that you don't have to, you know, take a newer version of it, even if you took one, you know, back before 1234 was around. But, you know, when you really think about it, to be on top of things in this industry, I would encourage you to do so, because there is a lot of new. We added about 30% content to our book to cover this, and I think it's something everybody needs to be aware of, whether you're working on it now or whether it's going to be coming your way. So it's it is kind of important, and you know, and then also just keep an eye on air conditioning overall as a topic, because there's a lot of changes that are going to continue to come. I've never seen this much change with respect to our program throughout all the years, including the transition of 134A. I mean, we've got some, you know, some new things that are going to be happening down the line. There, we've also had a question here: is, you know, is the credential something you have to recertify in? At this time, we do not, but there has been discussions in Washington about a new program that may require you to update it. So again, you know, if that happens, we'll certainly get the word out. That's not going to be kept a secret. We continue to monitor that. At this instant in time, it's not required, but again, that may change. So again, stay plugged in. Really kind of important to know what's happening out there.
One of the questions, Dave, was about pretest items on the test. Clifford asked about why there are questions on the test that don't get considered for your score, and we do that because technology changes, and because each test is weighted. Okay, each item is statistically analyzed to determine how difficult it is and how well it discriminates between a less than knowledgeable candidate and a knowledgeable candidate. We have to pre-qualify every test question that we use. So if one good example of how tests change are the brakes exams. There's not much caliper rebuilding, master cylinder rebuilding, wheel cylinder rebuilding being done on vehicles nowadays. It's usually component replacements. So the technicians participating in the brakes exam workshops really lobbied to move that content out of the exam, and we did that. And in the same time, anti-lock brake systems, traction control, stability control is coming in. So those type of questions need to be created by the committees, the technicians, and then also pre-tested to determine how well they function, okay, before they can be put on a live test. So that's why they're there.
Thanks for that, Dan. That's a good one. I know we get a lot of those kinds of questions. Bob, do you see anything out there in the questions pane that might merit some attention?
I do, Dave. I was looking at a couple of these. Is the TA test already required to keep your master status? At this point, it is not. If you are currently a master certified truck technician with T2 through T7, it will only come into effect when one of your other credentials or one of your other certification, expires or becomes due for recertification. So if you have all your T2 through T7 certifications, your T7 cert comes up that you have to recertify. It's going to expire at the end of 2016. At that point, once you take that certification and get that one done, you'll have to add the T8 certification into your program to be able to keep your master status at that point.
Bob, one of the questions was about some of the new technologies related to diesel emissions. and how they are being addressed on the ASE exams. And I'd like to address James and say that, and everyone else, that that content is being added, and there is content already on the exams, correct, related to that?
There is, yes, sir. We're adding it every time we create a new test. We'll add a bit more into it. It's already been in the T2 diesel engines. It's been in L2 for at least a couple of years now, and we are adding more to it all the time. For the simple reason that we don't want to put too much of the new stuff out there until guys in the industry get to touch it and work on it. So for the first few years, it was, of course, under extended warranty for the engines. So until our aftermarket folks and our fleet guys got to touch it and work on it, we didn't feel it was fair to ask questions about it. So it's very prevalent in the industry right now with the diesel exhaust after-treatment systems. So yeah, you will see more of that coming along and being added into the tests.
Dan, you see anything else?
Yeah, I'd just like to address related to certificates and patches on these exams. Each individual test that you saw in the T series, T1 through T8, if you just took like T8 and passed that test, you get a credential for that exam that has that exam listed on it, the same blue ASE credential that you usually see. And if you wanted to purchase a patch for that test, because you've passed it, you're eligible to purchase a patch for that test to display your pride in being ASE certified. It has a silver bar on the bottom that has truck on it. So it says ASE certified truck. Correct, Bob?
Yes, Dan, that is correct.
And then if you certified in all 8 areas, or all 7 areas, T1 doesn't count, then you would receive a master status, which is a gold patch and also a gold master seal on your certificate.
That is also correct, Dan. Dave, if I can kick in here, there's another question. Can you touch on the difference between the heavy-duty master certification and the L2 exam and certification? And that came from Greg. Greg, how this works is your master is a culmination of T2 through T7, also T8. L2 is what we call an advanced level. It actually has a composite vehicle component attached to this test. So when you go to sign up for this test and you show up at the test site, you'll actually get a composite vehicle booklet that explains how the fuel system works, how the injectors, all the controls, all the sensors and stuff are there. So it is its own standalone test, and it is an advanced level. So it is a bit more challenging. We do strongly recommend before you go attempt to take the L1, L2, or L3, any of the advanced level tests, that you look at the composite vehicles to make yourself familiar with those before you show up for the test site.
One question that came through was about the testing time and asking why we have time tests. And we purchase time from a vendor, just like we purchase time from the testing facilities when we were testing in paper and pencil. And what we do with that time is we make sure that that time is ample time for the vast majority, I mean huge majority, almost all technicians have enough time to take the test. But we also analyze that testing time to make sure that technicians are not feeling like they're being rushed through the test. So we pay attention to specific time indicators. For instance, it's not, we have a on-staff psychometrician that's trained in the science of testing and measurement that monitors that. What they're looking for is, for instance, how much time you spend on the first 5 questions versus the last 5 questions, how much time you spend on the first half versus the last half of the test, how much time you spend on each test question, how many questions you may not have time to answer, that kind of input, as well as your comments to the test. So comments that come into us through the Contact Us on the website about testing time are monitored, as well as those comments that are made on the surveys at the end of the test. So that's very important. We've done webinars that talk about how to better manage your time on the test, how to, making sure you answer all the questions, making sure you flag items that you don't know the answer to, and then going back and figuring those out later, but making sure you select an answer no matter what. You usually are able to, most test takers can narrow down the answers to to 2 items, and they can choose between the 2 answer options. So pick one, flag it, come back, and move on. That's the best way to manage the time. And be prepared. Like if, for instance, on the advanced level exams, sit down with the products that come with those and study them. For instance, the L1 exam, L2 exam, they have a composite vehicle booklet. L3 has the hybrid vehicle exam that has a reference a document that goes with it that explains the type of hybrids that are on the test. So those are important items to remember. If you study those, that'll help you move through the test quicker. And I'm answering for Bob here, but on the automobile series, I think is very parallel to the truck series. Being very knowledgeable about electrical and testing electrical components and circuits is critical on the ASE exams. If you're not good at electrical, or even if you think you're good at electrical, spend time studying that. You will improve your test scores. You'll move through the test quicker. You're able to process the items faster. That's really important.
And then Dave and Dan, if I can add one other bit of information, we again have been asked repeatedly about where do I get training material and stuff. I know on the truck side, a lot of the manufacturers have things on their website that are free to download, free training. For instance, Bendix, who does brakes for a lot of the trucks, if you go to their website, www.bendix.com, they have all kinds of free training, school material, stuff like that. Other manufacturers, whether it be Allison Transmission, whether it be anybody else, even sometimes the manufacturers have free material that's out there that you can go and download and at least take a look at to see what's there. So whoever your manufacturers are, whether it's school bus, truck, or transit bus, reach out to those folks who are doing a lot of the componentry for those and see what kind of training and stuff they have too. And some of the stuff is really, really good.
All right, well, thanks for that, Bob. With that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank everyone for attending tonight and for your questions and interaction in this session. Hopefully you've come away with a little bit of everything. We always come away with something as well, knowing what's on your mind, and we thank and appreciate your attendance and sharing your thoughts with us. So we hope to see you at another ASE webinar soon, and on behalf of Dan Baumhart and Bob Cornwell, have a good evening, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.